Hello, thank you for being here and welcome to this more in-depth video about masking, camouflaging, and mental health. I'm putting a little bit of a trigger warning on this since it can be a little more of an intense subject. I'm also going to show you a free masking questionnaire that I took. Of course, there will be a link to that underneath this video, so feel free to take a look at that if you're curious. I want to start with a question. How can we destigmatize mental health challenges that are faced by neurodivergent people and promote understanding and empathy? First, let's start with understanding what camouflaging and masking mean. Masking refers to the process of hiding or suppressing neurodivergent traits or behaviors in order to fit in and avoid stigma and misunderstanding. Camouflaging, on the other hand, can refer to actively adapting and mimicking neurotypical behaviors and mannerisms. Both of these strategies can impact mental health significantly. Things like eye contact are pretty commonly talked about. Things like stimming in public and repressing those stims, that's considered camouflaging. Um, there's quite a few. There's quite a few things. It's basically anything that's listed in that DSM criteria for autism spectrum disorder. So I want to note, like, how does one learn to camouflage? It's largely an unconscious process. This isn't something that someone is always doing on purpose. It certainly can be something that people adapt, such as studying movies or TV shows to kind of learn how people generally interact with one another and kind of replicating those patterns that they might see. It's my personal belief that humans have an innate desire to be accepted by others and to establish meaningful social connections and have a sense of belonging. So, to some degree, all humans mask, but it's very different when we're talking about neurodivergence because there's so much more going on. Camouflaging is not necessarily conscious or deliberate. Finding ways to hide autistic proclivities or trying to be perceived as socially appropriate can happen even when the autistic person is unaware. Also, worryingly, research is identifying a strong association between camouflaging autistic traits and poor mental health and well being, including high rates of suicidal thoughts and behaviors within autistic people. Issues with camouflaging include things like exhaustion, stress and anxiety, burnout, depression, identity issues. A lot of autistic people have reported feeling as though they're not being their true selves, and so camouflaging has negatively impacted their identity. Suicidality. Camouflaging has also been found to be a risk marker for suicidality in autistic adults. And this is why recognizing masking, camouflaging, and their impacts on mental health is so crucial. I would like to, as always, encourage everyone to just try to be more understanding and patient and accepting of the natural differences that we have between all individuals here on Earth. Anyway, are you curious about masking? If you think that you might be someone who is high masking, there is this really interesting questionnaire that is free on Embrace Autism's website. I took this questionnaire, it's called the Camouflaging Autistic Traits Questionnaire, or the CAT-Q, and it was really quick to take. It didn't take me a super long time, as you can see. I ended up with a total of 151, which turns out is actually really high on the scale of masking. If you score 100 or above, you are considered a high masking individual. So if I have scored a 151, and I'm looking on here that the average female score for autistic females is 124. So I'm solid 25 points above that, which feels pretty significant. And I think that has a lot to do with me being a late diagnosed person. I think this is just a very interesting thing to consider. The amount of effort that I know I put into every single social interaction, the amount of time I think about what I've said and how it might have been perceived after any interaction. I think all of that has to do with masking, and it definitely has led to not being very accepting of myself, labeling myself bad things that are really like incorrect for what I was experiencing, like telling myself that I was being itchy when, like, in reality, I was overstimulated, um, and trying to force myself into this box of like, well, you can't act that way. It's not nice, which is obviously true. But I was ignoring the fact that I was overstimulated, and therefore I was just trying to suppress that and show that I was okay and just put a smile on my face. And I've always been told growing up that, kill them with kindness is always the easiest way to go. And I think that's actually very true. And then it unfortunately has kind of reinforced this idea of masking, and that I'm very much like, you're gonna see me smile all the time if you see me in public, because that's like the safest thing to do, is to be a nice person. And then I wonder, like, what does that mean? What does that mean that I think about myself? Does that mean that I think I'm not naturally a nice person if I think that I have to put on a front of being a nice person in public? And I just wonder, it makes me wonder. And I have had, self esteem issues my entire life, including being diagnosed when I was like a teenager with dysthymia, which is now called pervasive depressive disorder. So I've just always had this like knowledge that I didn't fit in, and didn't, that a lot of the things that I did or like wanted to do or say weren't taken well or perceived well, and therefore I should stop doing them. And the safest thing was to smile and be quiet. And it unfortunately has gotten me very far in life. I have also suffered greatly for that, because I feel like it has slowly removed me very much from my emotions and from understanding what I actually need in each moment, because I'm more concerned about like fitting in or being normal or being like safe, just almost being invisible. And so I worked on these things a lot recently. I shouldn't hide so much of myself. So, anyway, this is a tough conversation. Sometimes I'm still working on myself all the time, and I'm still trying to figure all these things out. So, I appreciate you learning these things with me. There are definitely a lot of resources if this is something you're struggling with. I highly recommend starting with some of these links for Embrace Autism. Please reach out to a therapist. Please reach out to someone you trust. Um, Life out there is hard, and I hope that sharing these sorts of things help to foster like some sort of understanding or connection in general with people. So, thank you very much for listening, and please let me know if you have any comments or questions. And yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So, remember, this is a conversation that has a lot of my opinions and my views on here. I'm going to link my resources of where I got some of this information, but note that with each individual person, this experience is going to be different. And so I think it's an important thing to try to listen when people are willing to share. Okay. Thank you again. Have a great day. Have a great day. Bye.